Welcome to our St. Mary's Gaels audio podcast, the final edition of Weekend Review and Preview for the week, the recap of the West Coast Conference Tournament from the week ending date from Wednesday, May 24th through Saturday on May 26th, May 25th, 2023. The St. Mary's Gaels, their 2023 season came to an end. They went to the WCC tournament, went 2-2 in that tournament. They won the first game. They knocked off, or in the knockout game, they dethroned the reigning defending WCC tournament champion San Diego Toreros, who won the conference tournament last year in that game. And then the Gaels the next night defeated the number one top seeded and WCC regular season champion Royal Marymount Lions. Then they end up, after that, end up winning in that other, and then they end up winning the second game in that they earned themselves spot into the semi, and they end up winning that game. They end up losing to the Santa Clara Broncos, who, by the way, ended up going on to win the WCC tournament. They got their first conference championship, their first postseason championship they're going to be advancing to the NCAA regionals for the first time since 1997. Then they end up losing the losers bracket in the late night capper to Portland as the Gaels committed 4 big errors, 3 by Gavin Napier, and bad bases on balls was the difference for the Gaels. So the Gaels season comes to an end. Disappointment, but turned out to be a great year after kind of sort of erasing the bitter disappointment of 2022, where you only won 9 conference games. You improved by 5 games with a turnaround in 2023.
Yeah, I think they're 2 different years. Early on in 2022, I thought our team was really complete, and then we hit the injury bug and got hit by the injury bug. And then this year, we just played consistent throughout. We did have a couple different injuries, but it was really a healthy position player group, and really a group that just kept working. I think there was a point in the middle of the year where, if we didn't stay on the gas pedal, we could have fallen by the wayside, but this group didn't do that. They kept working. We scrapped out a couple wins, against BYU to win a series, and then, later in the year we get a key win against San Diego to get us in the tournament. So, at different points in the year, you could see this group pushing, playing hard, always running the bases hard, and really showing up to practice quietly and getting ready for each week. So I couldn't be prouder of the group. They did a nice job.
That's all you could ask for, because like I said, at the beginning of this year, we'll get to, the reflection as as time goes by this week, kind of a time of reflection, and I'll get to that in a bit for myself. But some of the highlights of the year, winning, your trip to postseason for the first time, me for the first time as a Gaels team reporter, got some milestone wins though too.
Yeah, I think they're all big wins. You remember them for different reasons, but maybe nobody's going to be prouder of us than you getting your first one here, B. It was fun to watch, and we're glad you joined us this year.
Yeah, it's funny, a year ago around this time, I just had completed my final season on the Hilltop with a lot of uncertainty with the program, and still, you fast forward where I am now, a year later, we're two situations in total opposite directions, but this was a great year. The guys played hard. They didn't complain about the shortcomings of not having a full season with fans. We were able to get the fans on the last final weekend of the series with San Diego, and next year we'll have a full year of the new Gallagher Stadium with fans, and even this fall we'll be able to have fans for the fall practices to check out the 2024 Gaels, and we'll get to that part in just a moment, but some individual had a great series. Coleman Schmidt had a monster series. Hit 4 home runs and he had a great series. And if we've won the conference, he would have definitely been the MVP of the series. Also, Connor Lynchy pitching that big game in that first game in that knockout game to get us into the double elimination format.
Yeah, all those guys you mentioned stepped up in different ways, and plenty of guys stepped up quietly. But yeah, Connor pitched really well, coming off a week off where his back was a little bit stiff. Then he comes out and he's just as sharp as he always is. As you mentioned, Coleman Schmidt. You just never knew when he was going to explode, but it was fun to watch when it happened. And then, quietly, I think Blake McDonald did a really good job behind the plate, not just in that tournament, but all year. He blocked, he kind of threw his body at the thing, and it's really a lot of fun to see look at all the guys, and then you evaluate what they gave to the group, and all of it was needed. You needed every guy, you needed everything that they contributed, and to their credit, they kept giving.
Yeah, and also, and then, we're going to say goodbye unfortunately, we'll say goodbye to 3 great players, Billy Ralston, and Rourke is going to be gone, and I think a few other seniors who already had graduated, but they still have 1 year of eligibility. Some could be going to the major leagues, and some may come back and take another shot at a crack at the WCC championship next year.
Yeah, we'll have a good core back.
Oh yeah,
some good players with good experience, and the best part about it is they're our guys. They're Gaels and
a bunch of hungry dogs, I guess.
Hungry, yeah. And coming back on that bus from the airport, it was a lot of fun because you knew, aside from those 3 seniors and 1 or 2 other guys, that whole group's going to be back, and they're going to come back hungry. I know that.
I know. And like I said, this year for me, in perspective, was like a year of transitioning from the hilltop. We all know what happened last year with with some unfortunate circumstances with what happened at USF. A lot of uncertainty with that baseball program. What happened with our protege, Coach Giarratano, and leaving a program that 24 memorable years, and then transitioning to the greener pastures of the city life of Moraga. And that first day back, what was it like? Almost 9 months, going almost 10 months ago from when I stepped onto the campus. What was your memories, though?
Memories of this year?
Yeah, when I came in September.
Oh, just you coming back and the trips we get to take on the way back to Bart every day, and getting to tell stories and talk about people we haven't seen in a long time.
And also, Mark Goulart give me that St. Mary's Gaels campus tour. Just as it was a different vibe over there, and get acquainted with those 2 chicken hawks, your 2 boys, though. Making those major adjustments of. It was, a new staff, from Coach Meggs to Coach Nash and the Rooster, the widely old Rooster, Bob Ralston and his kid, William or Billy Ralston, and the new players, though, too, just meeting them for the first time.
Yeah, they've enjoyed having you. We all have, B. We're looking forward to another year.
Yeah, and then also, so what's going to be the plan? What's going to be for you? Going to be doing some recruiting in the next few weeks. What's going to be happening? Recruiting and the free agent transfer portal signings, sweepstakes as well. Lots going on. We don't want to mention nothing on the air, but we know something big's going to happen. And we will let you know on our St. Mary's Gaels updates on a later date. Go figure.
That's a good idea, B.
And
you asked about my schedule. It's going to be individual meetings, recruiting, and cleaning, resetting for next year. It's a good time to do it.
Yeah, there's also have to count and also another shout out to the Miss Cassidy, the flying squirrel. That poor squirrel's got to do all the transactions, though, count all the spendings for the year and the financial reports like the Dow Jones stock and market updates for the spending of the team.
She does a lot. She's been a key part of this thing. We hope to have her back. We're working on it now.
Okay, and then also, the new facility, great turnout that final weekend, more than a week ago. I think it was like about 10 days ago or almost 2 weeks ago. It was great to see the fans and I gotta say the parents as well. The parents really welcomed me with open arms though that first year.
Yeah, they're good people, and they saw what you were doing, B. So I know they were excited to have you part of the group too.
And Gonzo Silva, the Gaels class of '95 recipient. He's been doing this for a long time, and learning the idiosyncrasies and all that kind of stuff though too.
Yeah. Gonzo's kind of the godfather out there, huh? He's there at some of those practices, and I know he enjoys seeing you. You guys called some really nice games there in the fall too.
Yeah, and also like this Tim Fitzgerald, him and Griffith Snyder, phenomenal job. The game day staff, I know they were under stress early in the year because of the challenges of of not having a full stadium in place. So I think with everything is going to be the normal. Next year we'll have a full stadium.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't have a repeat of too many rainouts though, because that.
Yeah, those are tough. But I'm sure we'll have some rain next year.
Yeah, I mean, and then we do need that rain. It does help the trees in Moraga, but it was a great year. This was kind of, for me personally, in perspective, like I said, where I was at then, where I'm at now. I mean, I said, regardless what happens in the tournament, this was a good turnaround for me. It kind of, put the bed of that nasty sour taste of what happened last year, unfortunately. And then I want to say, off the work, I do have to send a special recognition congratulating both Alan Smoot, the former Don, and former Don's pitching coach and interim head coach Matt Kemplinger, who both are going to be in the NCAA regionals representing the San Jose State Spartans, the champions of the Mountain West Conference. They'll be playing the Stanford Cardinals in that Stanford regional this weekend down in Palo Alto. Yours truly, I just got going to be going down there to cover that regional. That is going to be an interesting regional matchup. You got them. You got Cal State Fullerton back in it, the champions of the Big West Conference. So it's not going to be a picnic a walk in the park for Stanford at all.
Oh, no. Anytime you're on the West Coast in a regional, it's going to be tough. Stanford's got a very physical team, so I know they'll play well, but there are some good teams in that one.
And San Jose State, I think, is considered physical. When you go win a conference and you get picked out of that to go to Palo Alto about 15, 20 minutes from campus, say, you're right in your next door neighbor's territory.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they have some home fans though.
And I bet San Jose State fans, they're gonna take over that joint there.
I think so. Yeah, they'll be there with the Stanford fans.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a great matchup. I think any four of those teams could come out of any four of those teams could come out of there as the regional winner. And if they get to the super regional, if they do, whoever comes out, deserves to win it.
Yeah, I agree. Plenty of good baseball on the West Coast coming up, so it'll be fun to watch.
And then let's just look at the West Coast Conference. This year, we all talked about this year kind of marked the changing of the guard in conference play. What happened? Santa Clara, conference champs, they're back in the tournament. First time since '97. You got 3 Bay Area teams in the tournament. Stanford, of course. Santa Clara, they're going to be in the Fayetteville Regional. And then you got Arkansas. Then you got San Jose State, the Mountain West Conference champion. This was a team, I think, 3 or 4 or maybe 5 years ago, only won 17 games. They turned things around. They're going to be playing at Stanford. And you look at the WCC for the future, because you look at it, though, I think Look at San Diego. They had some injuries. Pepperdine doesn't be down that long. Gonzaga should bounce back. I mean, St. Mary's is going to be in this race next year. And then, you look what has happened over the last year.
Yeah, it's hard to say year to year. I don't think teams just go away and never come back. I think there's just cycles and you're always working to keep your team a little older, a little more mature, so that you go every year and then you get those guys ready, the young guys ready, and then they help too. But I think the conference has a lot of parity. Everybody did and could beat everybody else. So I expect it to be the same in the next year. Who knows how the conference will line up. Our job as coaches and teams, we just put together the best team we can, and I think we got a pretty good one coming back.
Well, I think so too. It's going to be exciting at the new Ronald Gallagher Stadium, which will begin its first full season next spring, and we'll have some games in the fall balls where the fans can come out to the ballpark for free and take a sneak peek preview of your 2024 St. Mary's Gaels.
Let's do it, B.
Well, Greg, nice to be on today. It's been the last 9 months as the final, as we're doing this podcast on this last day of May, as the season's come to an end. Graduations in colleges are done for the West Coast Conference, still are commencing doing this week as we're doing taping, not just in colleges around the Bay Area, Northern California, or in around the state, or in high schools, and a lot of graduations for the public schools around the Bay Area this week. And the season, I learned a lot about myself over the last year from, making that transition, which was not easy, leaving a school with Coach Giarratano and his family. And I know Coach Giarratano and wife Brenda and the kids Bianca and Nico are doing very well. And this first year, I have to say, this was a year I really enjoy after all my years, even because of persevering, doing some challenging times.
Yeah, B, you've been through a lot and you landed on your feet like you always do, and you'll keep doing that.
Yeah, so I'd just like to say thank you for very much all year long, on the Smc-Tv Plus Audiocast, and on behalf of Satellite Digital Media News throughout the entire year, on behalf of the athletic department, and on behalf of the athletic staff and the administration, congratulations on your first ever postseason appearance. And this is, I think, the first what will be many more years. Hopefully around this time next year, we'll be getting ready to go to a regional somewhere.
That's the plan, B.
Yep. All right. Thank you for listening to this segment on the St. Mary's Gaels podcast 2023 recap. And Jimmy Davis on Smc-Tv Plus Audiocast. I'll be back with a final word recap of the season. What's the plan for going beyond? Where did the Gaels go from here in just a moment? That's St. Mary's Gaels head coach Greg Moore finishing and completing his fourth season in Moraga, as the St. Mary's Gaels had a great turnaround season after the very debacle of last year in 2022, when they started the season at one point had won their first 13 or 14 games in a row, had that winning streak. But then unfortunately things just went south from there with all the injuries on the offense, and then some, as the Gaels would go on to lose 30 of their final 41 games. They would end up winning, going 9-16 in WCC play last year, finishing in 8th, and really had struggled. But the turnaround season with a 5-game improvement, going from that to finishing in tied for 5th with the Gonzaga Bulldogs by virtue of winning 2 of 3 against the Bulldogs at Patterson Park. That gave the Gaels the tiebreaker, and they would host or get into the WCC tournament for a chance for the WCC to compete for a WCC championship to get the automatic bid to a regional, but they fell just short, came within a game of going to the West Coast Conference Championship Series finals. And with the Gaels, they kind of, gave very much entertained us throughout the 2023 baseball season. Let's give us a quick look of the final recap of the West Coast Conference baseball standings. Loyola Marymount, the champions of the West Coast Conference for the regular season, finished 21-6, 29-24 overall. They finished with a commanding 4 games lead over the Portland Pilots, the Santa Clara Broncos, and the San Diego Toreros, who all finished in a 3-way tie, but Portland ended up winning the season series over both Santa Clara and San Diego, as they end up as the Portland Pilots finished at 17-10 and 31-23 overall. Only, I believe, is the first time in school's history, ever in school's history, that the Portland Pilots, who have consecutive back-to-back seasons of winning at least 30 games or more. Santa Clara finishes with a 17-10 mark, 36-20 overall. They were the West Coast Conference Tournament champions, their first postseason series conference tournament championship postseason in a long, long time. Their first trip back to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 1997. Their 36 wins overall were the most by a Broncos season since 1997, when they won 41 games that year. And the Broncos had a great turnaround this year with some big series wins, including a 3-game series sweep over the San Francisco Dons, sweeping the Dons in conference play for the first time since 2002, their first series, or since 2003, their first series sweep in Santa Clara at home against San Francisco since 2002, and their first ever 3-game series sweep over the Dons at Schott Stadium since that ballpark opened for business for Broncos baseball back 18 years ago in 2005. Then the San Diego Toreros ended up going 17-10, 24-24-1 overall. And then it was the Gaels who knocked out the Toreros, who was the defending WCC tournament champions from last year, 14-13 overall. They finished tied for 5th with Gonzaga, but St. Mary's finishes ahead of them based on their series win over the Bulldogs. And then the Bulldogs, who made the NCAA regionals, who were the WCC champion tournament runner-up last year, they only won 14 games in the regular season. They end up losing 34. So Gonzaga will have kind of sort of an off year for the Bulldogs overall. But they'll be back next year stronger than ever for Bulldogs head coach Mark Macknoff. Then the other half of the bracket, BYU Cougars, in their final season in the West Coast Conference, they will be moving to the Big 12 Conference in this fall for the 2023-24 season. We wish the Cougars very well. They had completed their 10th season in the WCC. They went 13-14. They ended up finishing 8 games back, 24-28 overall. The Gaels, or I should say the Cougars, end up going to the WCC tournament and won the WCC conference tournament back in 2017, some 6 years ago. We wish them well in their endeavors as they're moving now to the Big 12 conference this coming fall in 2023. And then rounding it up, Pepperdine finishes with an 8-19 record and a 19-30 record overall. Kind of a down year for the Waves, who was always the gold standard. They're coming out back-to-back subpar seasons. And the 30 loss, they suffered overall one of their worst seasons in recent memory. And that's not like the Pepperdine Waves, with a great legacy, a tradition of winning. And then also it was then they finished ahead of the San Francisco Dons. A lot of stories, a lot of the well illustrated. They have fallen dramatically under first year head coach Rob Natome. They finished 8-19 with the 18 in conference play, 18-29 overall. they have suffered significantly with major losses from the team for the 2022 team, and including the big loss of longtime head coach Nino Giarratano, and they have lost a lot of players through the transfer portal, and they're going to be, according to multiple reports, more players will be jumping in, were already on that transfer portal, and we'll see how the offseason, where their next destinations will be going, as San Francisco suffered through one of their worst seasons in probably more than 2 decades. By the way, their 19 losses is the most conference losses by that program, by the Dons, since 2000, when they went 10-20 in conference play. Only the 2002 Dons lost more games, was 21, and they finished with an 8-19 record, their worst finish since 2000. And by the way, their 8 conference wins by San Francisco is the fewest by a USF Dons baseball team since 1993. The Pacific finishes up in the basement again, 6-21. They're 14-35 overall. And then also some of the individual numbers for the Gaels. Christian Almanza was the co-West Coast Conference Player of the Year. He ended up sharing that award, the WCC Co-Player of the Year, as he ended up sharing that award with Austin Deming for the BYU Cougars, ended up getting that award. And then as he ended up the co-club leaders with home runs, him and Coleman Schmidt with 16 home runs. Also making first team was pitcher Connor Lynchy, who won 3 games in this injured shortened season. And hopefully he could come back again and restart and be stronger. And he could be the ace if the Gaels can make another run to the WCC tournament. And then also, congratulations to Ryan Sanders and Ryan Turek, both receiving honorable mentions for the Gaels. And we'll also, and then, a lot is going to be going on in the offseason with the Gaels. It was a turnaround year for, after a really difficult year last year for the club, and also for the new Gallagher Stadium for the last 3 games open for business for all the fans. And it's going to be a good year with the first full year of Brother Gallagher Stadium in 2023. And we'll give you all the latest news, what's going to happen with the Gaels, who will leave for the MLB draft, and who will be signing on to come to Moraga. We'll have all the off-season news throughout the summer, leading up towards the fall practice. So stay tuned to our podcast and on smcgales.com for further on a later date. And then also, like to thank for all the fans, for the parents, yours truly, first year after years at University of San Francisco, making that trek all out east to Moraga with a new faces and new setting, and really the parents who've been supportive, and for the players and the coaching staff all year long doing this. My first year as being the Gaels reporter, and I had a very fine time throughout the year. We thank you all as well. And also like to thank all the alumni, and not to forget for Gonzo Silva and for former Gael Mark Goulart for our mic'd up sessions back last fall. We're going to do one more session to recap the 2023 Gaels baseball season, where they go from here in the next several days as we're doing this podcast. So we'd like to thank everybody for watching, listening to our podcast all year long. Throughout the week, all the special interviews with all the players and for all the fans who've been watching throughout. And we'll be doing some stuff in the off season. Probably hopefully catch up with some players, and then we'll get you ready for the fall season, because baseball season never ends. And once again, congratulations to the Santa Clara Broncos, champions of the WCC. They end up going 1-1 in the 1-2 in the WCC or in the NCAA Fayetteville Regional. They lose their first game to the 3rd national seed Arkansas, but then they end up rebounding and knocking off, beating Arizona Wildcats in the elimination game. Then they fell again to Arkansas And it was a great, so congratulations to Coach Filter and the rest of the staff and around college baseball, Bay Area wise. Also, congratulations to Stanford. They end up coming back, coming from behind to beat Texas A&M twice to advance to the Super Regionals. They'll be taking on the Texas Longhorns. These are two of college baseball's finest programs with long historic traditions. They'll start that weekend series on Saturday over at Sunken Diamond. And then also, congratulations to the San Jose State Spartans, won their first ever Mountain West Conference tournament. They were regular season champs for the Mountain West Conference. It's just the fourth time they've won a regular season championship outright in school's history, and they were back in the NCAA regionals for only the fifth time in school's history, the first time since 2002. Thank you for all of you watching this all year long. And we'll be doing some stuff in the off season, so stay tuned. Well, any developing breaking news and so much more, we will can you the information when some signings or whenever, once the season is over. Thank you for all of you for listening. And last but not least, Tim Fitzgerald, the SID for Gaels baseball all year long. And thank you, yours truly. My pleasure of giving you my first year of doing St. Mary's Gaels baseball. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Latest news on Gaels athletics and so much more throughout the entire offseason. Go to smcgales.com. For now, I'm Brian Professor B. Davis. Thank you for listening to St. Mary's Gaels podcast weekend review, 2023 season review on Smc-Tv plus Audiocast. St. Mary's Gaels baseball on Smc-Tv plus Audiocast is an association with the Satellite Digital Media News Network, where every team has a fan and every fan has a voice, the network home of champions. Take care, everybody.